You become what you think about most of the time. So if you don't learn how to think correctly and you don't learn the mechanics of your thoughts, you're not going to be able to change your reality as you want to. So in this video, we're going to talk about how I learn how to think, how you should think about your thoughts, and about how you think in order to change and manifest the things that you want, whether it's in your business, your life, your relationships, no matter what. If you learn how to think and do these things properly and learn how to think properly, it will change everything. So the first thing you have to understand is that everything is available to you, right? And you, whoever you are, let's make you look like that. When your thoughts control your field of vision. So your field of vision is controlled by your thoughts, what you can see. Because everything, you have access to everything, right? You and within have access to whatever. But how you think and what you think about will cause you to have a greater or lesser awareness and a greater or lesser field of view for your reality and what you can actually change. So when you have a lot of negative thoughts or thoughts that don't progress you to get forward, or you're thinking as the person that you don't want to be, right? What happens is you lower your field of view. So instead, your field of view shrinks to this much, right? You don't have a big field of view. But if you think from the person that you want to be, if you think from the person that has the things that you are currently looking for, if you think from the person that is experiencing the life that you want to experience, you end up gaining a field of view to where now you start seeing more and more, to where more things are opened up to you. But that's only due to you having the correct thoughts, having the correct frame around how you think on a daily basis. So once you learn how to think, it will change the game for you. So first of all, we have to understand what thinking is. What is thinking? Thinking is the process of using one mind to consider, reason about something. I can't type or spell today. About something. So thinking is the process of using one's mind to consider or reason about something. So when you're thinking, you're using your mind, you're using the information and your mind to consider about anything. So if you're trying to grow your business, if you're trying to make more money, the process that you're using in your mind, right, you're reasoning why you can make more money or why you can't make more money. Everything that your thoughts, all your thoughts are things, right? Your thoughts are things. So when you're thinking, you're creating, right? You're creating a reasoning about anything that's your experience, from your experiences, from your feelings and all that, right? So you have to understand that about thinking. So this is the part. When you change what you think, you can change who you are. Most people try to change who they are, but they keep the same thoughts. You have to change your thoughts first, because you have to understand that everything is created in the mind first. Even when God created heaven and earth, he created mentally first before he made it. When he created humans, right, before he made them of the dust and the dirt, he created them. He blessed them before he ever made them physically. So you have to understand that your thoughts create everything that's happening before it's made physically. So if you want to change anything, if you want to change who you are, you have to change what you think, right? So you have to understand that about those thoughts, right? And there's a verse in the Bible that says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so shall he be." So what does that teach us? What does that one verse show us? As he thinketh in his heart, so shall he be. So what are the thoughts that you have? And those thoughts create who you are, right? But all thoughts, write this down, be taking notes. All thoughts aren't equal. Because it says one thing that changes everything. As a man thinketh in his heart. That's a poorly drawn heart. But as a man thinketh in his heart. And what does heart mean? Right? Heart, esoterically, is talking about your emotions. So when you're thinking about your heart, it's an emotion. So what it's saying, it says as a man thinketh in his emotions, with his emotions, so shall he be. So you have to decide, what are my emotionally charged thoughts? Because these are what matter often, right? And I think everybody that's watching this, we've had moments in our life where we've had what we like to call intrusive thoughts, right? And these are thoughts you just may have that are random, and you're like, why would I think that? But you don't act upon them because they're not emotionally based. They're just thoughts. Like, they just come in. Like, understand, we have so many thoughts happening in our mind every single day. You don't act on, you don't move differently. You don't create who you are in your reality based off those thoughts. But the emotionally charged thoughts are the ones that you take action on. The ones that create feeling, right? That create, whether it's happiness, sadness, whether it's calmness, whether it's frustration, whether it's anger, whether it's bliss, whether it's enlightenment. All these emotions, right? The thoughts that charge those emotions are what are influencing who you are. So you need to figure out, the best thing you can do for you is figure out, what thoughts do you have currently that are emotionally charged, right? If you think that you can't be rich, that thought of, I can't be rich, or I'm poor, or I'm not smart enough, are those emotionally charged thoughts, right? And if they are emotionally charged thoughts, those thoughts will lead you back to why you are the way you are, why you may do the things you do, why you may have the things you have, right? Because if you have emotionally charged thoughts that says, I'm poor, that's a thought. But you may have it emotionally charged. And it could be emotionally charged with sadness. It could be emotionally charged with frustration, because you get frustrated when you think about it. It may anger, right? But when you're thinking that and you have those emotionally charged thoughts, right, the universe does two things. It wants to maintain and continue to magnify those frequencies, right? Because it only wants to keep you in a loop. It wants to keep you doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? Because like things want like things. So if you're constantly frustrated, you're constantly sad, you're constantly angry, you're constantly discombobulated, you're constantly feeling all those things, your brain is going to want to continually to create those same things. Your reality is going to present circumstances, people, experiences to create those same things. And that's why you get self-fulfilling prophecies. What are those? Those are when people have these thoughts and they say these things, then they happen, and they think because they said it, it happened. But in actuality, what's happening is, and they think because it would happen that what they said is true. No. What happened is you said it, so you created it, and it is reality's job to show you what you create. Because you create similarly to God, right? Where when you say something, you begin the creation stages. When you say something is backed by emotion, you begin the creation stages, and you're going to make it. But what happens is people have these thoughts, they see it in reality, They see it in reality, and then what happens? The reality causes them to have more of those thoughts. And more of those thoughts causes them to create more in reality. And they feel like they are this magic word that everybody loves to use, which is stuck. And the reality is they're not stuck. They just don't understand that in order to change their reality, they have to first start with changing these thoughts. So the first thing you have to do, and one thing I teach my clients and the people that I mentor, I ask them this question, and I tell them they should ask themselves this question: why do I feel this way about whatever? Why do I feel this way about money? Why do I feel this way about my business? Why do I feel this way about relationships? Why do I feel this way? Because when you ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Now you can pinpoint these experiences that happen, and you can change your thoughts around them. I used to have a problem with being poor. So I said, why do I feel this way about money? Well, it's because I was taught certain things. Like, I was taught that if you wanted to make money, you had to work really hard. So I was always trying to work hard. And even if something came easy to me, I would be like, it's no way it should be this easy. So I would take it something that was simple and easy and make it hard. Right? A lot of reason why people that are watching this channel or watching any other channel talking about manifestation or changing your reality, and you think that it's hard and it's not happening, is because you have a thought that's subconsciously in your brain that's telling you that it should be hard. It shouldn't be the simple. So when you hear somebody telling you it's simple and it's easy and it's not that difficult, you have a stronghold on that because you've been programmed to think that in order for something to be worth it, it has to be hard. Like, I have a client, and she's runs a multi-million-dollar business, and the hardest thing for her to get, I was trying to get her, like, you got to stop working in your business and on your business. But what was her struggle? Why did she have those thoughts? Because she thought that working hard equal worthiness. So she was thinking in her head that she wasn't worthy if she wasn't working hard. So she was trying to do everything in the business. But the moment she stepped away and put systems and people in place, she made more money and it was easier. So you have to analyze your thoughts. Why do I feel this way? Because guess what? Earl Nightingale said it best. Earl Nightingale says, you become what you think about. What you think about most of the time. So, what are you thinking about most of the time? What thoughts are replaying in your head that have emotion attached to them most of the time? Because you're going to become that. Right? And excuse me. Because the things you think about most of the time have emotion attached to them. So you have to figure out, what is it that I think about most of the time? You have to audit your thoughts on a daily basis and ask yourself, why do I think that? Most of the times what happens is we don't question ourselves. We take ourselves, what we say to ourselves, as fact. We don't question it. We just go with it because we thought it. We think those things, so we automatically believe, oh, they're true because I thought it. No, that's not how it works. You have to figure out, what am I thinking about and why do I feel this way? And would the person that I'm trying to be think this way about this thing? What would they think about it? Right? So I want you to think about this. Every experience physically that you go through is a cause of your thoughts. The reason why you see certain things, the reason why certain things happen is because of your thoughts. Because the reality is that when you change your thoughts, you start to see things differently. And one experience that you have may not be the same experience as somebody else's, which is why two people can go through the same thing. Two people can come from the same environment and have two totally different experiences. Not because the one person's better or worse, not because somebody went through something worse or better. It's simply because they have different thoughts on it. This is why you have one person that comes from the hood and becomes a success story, and the second person that comes from the hood and they stay in the hood. It's not because they both couldn't get out. It's not because they both can't be successful. It's not because the person that made it is a better person than the other person. It's not because this person is smarter than the other person. But this person may have had different thoughts about their situation than the other person. This person's thinking there's no way out. And they have emotional attachment to that. Why? Because their parents didn't get out. Their sister didn't get out. Their brother didn't get out. Their cousin, their environment, their friend group didn't get out. Where this person's like, I can get out. They use other people's experiences. I can make it. This person's thought about money is, I deserve to be successful. I deserve to be rich. Like I'm capable because I'm creating God's image and likeness. I can be successful. This person's like, I grew up here because I live here. I can't win because I live here. It's harder because of my race or my social economic background. Because of my gender, I can't succeed. Where this person's thinking, I can succeed because I'm this. The same person from the same people from the same place, but they're having two different experiences because of the thoughts that they have. So you have to understand that in order for you to see the success you want to see, is that you have to have the right thoughts, and you have to understand this. Let's use. If you think the way you've always thought, you'll get the things you've always got. If you think if you think the way you've always thought, you'll get the things you've always got. Because thought is the beginning of creation. Everything comes from the mind, the mental. Starts with God's mind. Everything is one and the same. Everything starts with mind. And until you change the way you think, until you change the way you move, until you change all those things, you will not change anything, right? So that means, what do I have to do? What do I have to focus on? I have to focus on my perspective. There's a cliche that people say that perception is reality. Now, why is that true? Because everybody's perception creates a different reality, right? There's one universe with 8 billion worlds. Why do I say that? Because there's 8 billion people on the planet experiencing a different world. Why? Because of their perception. Because whatever their perception is their reality. Right? That's why you have to be keen on your perception. And you have to understand how can I try to have how can I have a neutral perspective of the situations I go through. God, I can't spell today. Because when you have a neutral perspective of the situations, you can see it for what it is and not for how you feel it is. Right? There's a verse in the Bible that says, all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and are called to his purpose. What does that mean? All things work together for the good. That means that if you have the correct perspective, anything that happens in your life helps progress you to who you want to be. right? Because you will always see the promise and not the process. You will never understand the full process, right? I think Steve Jobs said this quote where he said, "You will never be able to. The only way you can see the future is or is by looking through the rearview mirror, or see the process by looking through the rearview mirror." Some quote like that. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but what he was basically saying is that you will never see the process. You will never understand the process until you start looking backward and say, "Oh, this thing helped me. The thing that I thought was a problem, right? The thing that I thought was the thing that was destroying me was the thing that was building me up to be the person I want to be." And that, because the problem is never the problem. The problems that you face in your life are never the problem. The problem is your perspective of the problem. If I look at everything as being good to help me along the way, if I look at everything as being what is required for me to be successful, then when I change my perspective of the problem, then everything can change. This is why most people fail at whatever they try. Why do most people fail? Because in the beginning, it is harder. You're trying to build momentum. So when it's first people start a business, they think that everything is not going right, so they quit. When people start trying sports, they may not be as good initially, so they quit. When people are trying to do whatever they're doing in their life, if they feel that it's hard in the beginning and they don't have a correct perspective of the problem, if they don't have the right thoughts, then they start thinking that, oh, I'm not supposed to take this path. When in reality, sometimes when you're dealing with a lot of adversity, that shows signs that you're on the right path, that you're taking the right steps, right? Because disruption follows intention. What does that mean? When I intend to do something, there are going to be obstacles in my way to try to disrupt me from following that intention. But when I have an intention to do something, maybe it's to make more money, maybe it's to be healthier, maybe it's to get in the right relationship, right? When I have that intention, disruption comes. When I intend to start working out, what happens? Now I start noticing disruption. I start noticing more fast food signs. I go to the gym and it hurts, right? You get weaker trying to get healthier at first. Those are disruptions that are following your intention. You want to get healthier, I get disrupted. When I want to start a business, start making money, the first thing I have to do is to use the money to start making money. When I start a business, you have to start buying stuff. You have to maybe buy a website. You may have to buy equipment. You may have to buy product, right? And you're intending to make more money, but the disruption is I watch my bank account go lower. Maybe you're intending to find a husband or wife. The disruption is I have to go on dates with people that I may think is the one and they're not the right person. Or I may meet somebody and they may do this. You may have an intention of getting that new job and the disruption is, well, I do all these job interviews and I keep getting denied. Or at my current job now, I have a lot of BS that comes up or a lot of things that happen that are deterring me from taking those new steps. But what do you have to change? You have to figure out, okay, what's my perspective? What are the thoughts that I have that are emotionally charged? What are my convictions on this? Because that's what's going to be the thing that pushes you through and helps you get to that next point, right? So you have to really focus on your thoughts. Focus on your perspective. Focus on what am I thinking about? Because you become what you think about most of the time. Your emotionally charged thoughts become things. Your emotionally charged thoughts sets up your reality. So you have to start feeling the way you want to feel at where you want to be. Ask yourself, how would my future self be feeling right now? Because you can only have what you already have. So if you start having the same emotions that your future self would have, then you will start experiencing the reality of your future self. So if your future self would be calm in the situation, if you start having the feelings of calmness now, you will experience this calmness in reality. Right? Because you will only be given what you already have. You will only be attracted to the things that you already are. Like attracts like. And when you understand this, when you focus on your thoughts, it all starts with your thoughts. All starts with the mental. All starts with your mind. What are the emotionally charged thoughts that I'm having? Am I having negative thoughts? Right? Am I focused on the things? Am I focused on the negative outcome or the positive outcome? I want you to remember, when Jesus gets to the boat with Peter, he's walking. Peter asked him a question: "Can I walk on water?" He was excited. He had the right emotions. What happened when he started taking the walk? He started to focus. He started having his perspective shifted to not that he was going, not towards the thing he wanted. His perception shifted to the things outside of his control. He focused on the water, and what happened? He started to sink. And Jesus looked at him and said, "It's your faith." Why? Because why are you focusing on? Why are you having these negative thoughts, these negative feelings that are going to show up in reality? When you just focused on him, when you were focused forward, and you were excited, you were calm, you felt good, you had all these right emotions, which created the right thoughts, which created the right vibration and frequency, which then gave him the reality. But when you change those things and you focus on the negative instead of the positive, you revert back to who you were in the past. So when you change your thoughts, it's going to change everything for you. And when you figure out and ask yourself, what's the right perspective that I'm supposed to have, everything in your reality will start to shift one by one.